Now available in paperback and coming to Kindle Unlimited. John Haynes, Dark Succubus. The man who rules the world is tempted by a sultry succubus in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Dark Succubus in paperback or pre-order on Kindle Unlimited today. When it comes down to President Donald Trump, many on the left and the center are approaching him in the completely wrong fashion. And because they approach President Donald Trump on the completely wrong fashion, they cannot formulate an argument on how to defeat him in the 2020 election. Now, your Donald Trump is one of the weakest presidential candidates we have ever had, unfortunately, because so many people are caught up in their emotions about Donald Trump. They cannot think about a constructive argument or wage a constructive campaign on how to beat your Donald Trump. And your Donald Trump, again, is extremely beatable, but you have to understand how to approach him in order to beat him. Now, your Donald Trump's greatest strength is playing to people's emotions, and he oftentimes tries to use his political rhetoric to get people riled up. And when people are emotional, they aren't thinking critically, they aren't thinking rationally, and when you're not thinking critically and rationally, you make impulsive decisions. And that's where Donald Trump gets his advantage, by getting people so caught up in their feelings with his rhetoric at his rallies that they wind up getting polarized. And more people get polarized when they hear about his rhetoric and his rallies, that they stop thinking objectively and critically, and instead they get caught up in these shouting matches instead of trying to understand where his arguments lie and get into specifics as related to his arguments. Now, when I look at your Donald Trump, I see him no different than your Pookie in the inner city, your bad boy biker, or your thug. And when it comes down to these guys, oftentimes because people are caught up in their emotions about how bad this guy is, that they start getting in their feelings and they start trying to convince people why this guy is a jerk. And this has been the Democratic response to Trump over the last 3 years. And over the last 3 years, it has been a complete failure, because when a guy goes out here trying to convince another guy that the other people that he's a jerk, oftentimes what they're doing is coming from a position of weakness. And your Democrats and your centrists, they have been coming from a position of weakness for the last 3 years, trying to convince us that Donald Trump is a bad person. That is an opinion, that is not a constructive fact, and it's not a constructive fact that will get somebody elected in 2020, because in order to defeat someone like your Donald Trump, you cannot get caught up in his rhetoric, you cannot get caught up in your feelings, because if you get caught up in his rhetoric and his feelings, then you are giving him power, and he's going to use that power to defeat you, because the people who are caught up in his rhetoric, they are going to sit there and believe him, and they're not going to listen to you. And what's worse is going to happen is these leftist and centrist candidates, they're going to get more and more emotional as they're trying to convince people that Donald Trump is wrong, and that's going to give him more power in the situation. Because just like that bad boy gets power from you acting out, because it puts the attention on him and makes him look like the more rational choice, what those on the left and the center are doing is, by acting irrationally, making Donald Trump appear to be the more rational and logical choice. And that's because they are approaching him based on emotion and not approaching him based on critical thinking. A critical thinker would understand that you cannot approach an individual who is going out here on emotion with further emotion, because the more I attack that person with my emotions, the stronger they get, and they get the leverage in that situation, and then they use that leverage to bludgeon you. And that's what happened to Hillary Clinton when she tried to attack Donald Trump. She approached him based on emotion, and he then used her emotions against her. And when she did that, he understood how to defeat her based on arguments, because he understood the demographics of the United States of America. Because he already knew he had 95% of the white males, and he understood that because he had the bad boy presence, he could win over the females. And this is why he won over 60% of the white females, because he was presenting the image that he knew that women found to be attractive. The loud, brash, emotional guy would always triumph over a female, because females compete against other females. So that's why your Hillary Clinton primarily lost, in addition to the hypergamous nature of females who want to go out here and get with the not only the bad boy, but the rich boy. But the rich boy is beatable if you understand how to wage a strategy against him. And this rich boy, often when you look at his dysfunctional cabinet, his dysfunctional foreign policy, and his inability to really bring the country together, these are the weak points that you would think many on the left would be trying to capitalize on. But instead, they are so caught up in their feelings that they cannot see the weaknesses in Donald Trump's arguments, and they cannot see how your Donald Trump really does not really set a strong direction for the country. And because they try to argue him on feelings, they don't really lay out a platform for themselves on how they can make America better, and they don't lay out a plan for their vision for America, because they are so caught up in their feelings about this man that they cannot present any facts that are concrete to their argument. And what makes it even worse is that we have institutions like Hollywood and Silicon Valley further making Donald Trump appear to be stronger by doing things like censoring people on platforms like Facebook and YouTube for making criticisms of the Democratic Party, and having Hollywood go out here and having celebrities continuing to attack Donald Trump, making him again stronger, because the more you attack a Pookie, the more you attack a biker, the more you attack a jerk, the stronger they get, because in comparison to your emotional reactions to them, that individual appears to be the sane person in the room. And they appear to be the sane person in the room because you are acting irrationally regarding them, and that's what's making them appear to be the more attractive option. Because one of the big mistakes that your fathers usually make with their daughters is going out here and attacking the bad boy. And the same thing with the nice guy. He'll go out here and attack the bad boy and say that he is the better choice. And when the nice guy goes out here and attacks the bad boy, what he does is he shows that he is coming again from that position of weakness. And when you come from a position of weakness and you're trying to convince somebody that your arguments are valid, they have less reason to want to listen to your arguments, because they are in their feelings about that individual, and your attacks make them get more caught up in their feelings, because they then start to get defensive regarding that individual, and that makes them want to cling more to that individual. Just like the girl who is with the bad boy, the thug, or the biker, they become more attracted to the person because you are attacking them. And the more attracted, they become more attached to that person because they are receiving attention. Because when it comes down to most women out here, whenever a guy goes out of his way, whether it be one of these nice guy beta males or their father starts attacking the jerk, what happens is not only is the jerk more attractive, but they have more incentive to stay with that biker or that jerk because they are receiving more attention from that jerk, from that nice guy, and that father. Because when it comes down to females love drama. And when you have people on the left going into these histrionics in a country with a large population of females, they are actually making Donald Trump one of the most popular candidates in the history of the country. And they're doing that because, again, we have over 51% female population, and they love drama. And they love the drama that's going on in the Trump White House because it is getting them indirect attention because they can say they voted for the President Pookie, the President Bad Boy, and those on the left, they are so caught up in their feelings that they are adding more fuel to Donald Trump's fire, making him stronger. So they're sitting there not understanding that the approach that has to be used in 2020 is they have to stop approaching Donald Trump from an emotional perspective. Because when I look at candidates like your that are out here for president, and I look at your congresspeople like your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, your Ilhan Omar, and your many others, they are adding fuel to the Trump fire because instead of them working on building and constructing a constructive campaign platform, which is all about what they have, what their vision is going to be for the country for the next 4 years, whether it be a Democrat, whether it be a Republican, whether it be an independent, you have to lay out a platform with a vision, and you have to lay out a direction for where you want to go. And I'm not seeing any of these candidates presenting any sort of campaign outside of, I want to beat Donald Trump and we need to beat Donald Trump. And that is not a constructive argument for electing someone on the left, the center, or the right. That is all giving people a reason to elect Donald Trump again and possibly elect Donald Trump on a landslide that may mirror your Walter Mondale versus Ronald Reagan contest of 1984. And what is more of a tragic irony is that the people who run social media, in their attempts to censor people and put on a 1984-esque environment on social media platforms, is they're leading to a 1984 type landslide coming to our presidency because these individuals are not approaching the 2020 election from an objective perspective or trying to develop and construct arguments that would allow them to win against Donald Trump. Because again, Donald Trump is the most beatable presidential candidate in the history of the United States, and he's so beatable that it's not funny, because if you have a constructed campaign where you present arguments as related to his dysfunctional foreign policy and make examples like the North Korea negotiations, the hostile environments that he created in Mexico and many other countries as related to diplomatic situations and foreign policy, you start talking about the complete failure of his tax cuts in it leading to people having less money as related to their tax returns, and you talk about things as related to his dysfunctional cabinet, which has had the highest turnover in the history of the presidency, and how his cabinet has absolutely no focus, no direction, and no real vision for the overall United States, then you can start laying down a constructive campaign on how to defeat your Donald Trump. And if you go after him based on things as related to facts, logic, and reason, and you present constructive arguments, you might possibly have a chance of beating him. But when I look at your presidential candidates like Joe Biden out here approaching Donald Trump with rhetoric talking about how he wants to cure cancer, you have another candidate talking about how they want to offer free tampons, you have Cory Booker talking about offering freebies, and you have Kamala Harris talking about other sorts of things. None of these candidates are really presenting we the people with a constructive platform for their vision for America, a direction for where they want to take America for the next 4 years, or an idea about what specifics they want to set out as related to bringing Americans together. Because when I look at America today, under your President Trump, it is an extremely disjointed country, an extremely directionless country, and we have a Congress that is not representing we the people, one that is disconnected from we the people, and one not representing the interests of we the people. And any smart presidential candidate would be talking about how they want to bring we the people together under God and one grand vision for the country. And they would also be talking about their specifics for making investments in the people of the United States. Like I myself, if I were running for president, I would be talking about an investment in men, talking about the man crisis going on in this country, and how I would allocate resources towards rebuilding men, rebuilding masculinity, because when it comes down to men and masculinity, I believe that's where we're going to be able to build a strong country, because we, as I see it, we need an investment in developing boys, we need an investment in developing men into strong fathers, and we need an investment in trying to develop men as strong leaders. And that wouldn't be popular with today's politicians, but I believe it would be very popular with the people once they realize that men are primarily the builders, men are primarily the providers, men are primarily the protectors, and when it comes down to women, men are the ones they're looking for to care and provide for them. And a lot of women are looking for a husband, so an investment in men is an asset. But a lot of people, they would get upset when I would start talking about doing, in order to make those investments in men, removing the female protected class. And removing the female protected class, because we have a majority of females now in jobs, we have a majority of females in your schools, we have a majority of females in business. Now it's a perfect time to invest in men, invest resources in men, and invest in building a stronger community of men. But that kind of platform wouldn't be too popular in today's America, but it would be a platform that, again, many on the left don't want to invest in, because they want more female voters, and many on the center don't. They are a large female population. But again, these are platforms and arguments that would be perfect for unseating Donald Trump from the presidency, and would really work towards doing the hard work in order to build a great America. When it comes down to your Donald Trump, again, he is one of the most beatable candidates in presidential history. Unfortunately, too many Americans are caught up in their feelings about his rhetoric to see all of the weaknesses and vulnerabilities that this man has, and how easy it is to beat him in any 2020 campaign. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.